Welcome to Mysterious Goings On, the podcast about creativity, writing, and mystery. Every week, we talk about all kinds of great fiction and meet the people who write it. We also feature explorations about creativity in all walks of life. Your host, Alex Greenwood, will join you right after this.
This is Maddie Dalrymple, the author of the Ann Kinnear suspense novels and suspense shorts, and you're listening to Mysterious Goings On.
You know, I often tell myself, Alex, compose yourself. Well, it's fortunate for me that I need to compose myself, and I have an actual film and television composer right here on the show. She's also really great at marketing. We're so excited to talk to Priyanka Lalwani today because she's going to talk to us about all of these things here at Mysterious Goings On. Priyanka, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It is my pleasure. Okay, I've got to say it. You're one of my first. Here we go. We've been doing this show since 2016. You are the first Bollywood film music composer we've ever had on the show. How does one get to be the composer of music for a Bollywood film?
That's a really amazing question. And what a great way to start. I think it's all about knowing emotions and trying to amplify emotions in films. Bollywood produces the highest number of films. And being from India, you know, I'm born and brought up watching Bollywood films. And the best way that I got through it is through my network and through referrals. It did take me some time to get into it, but I'm so glad I'm here because it gives me an opportunity to speak to you and be here today.
That's lovely. So just if you're a listener and you're saying, I don't know what Bollywood is, it's basically, now Priyanka will correct me if I'm wrong, it's Hindi cinema, right? What they've done, it's a portmanteau, the word Bollywood. It's because I believe it used to be called Bombay cinema. And so it's the Indian Hindi language film industry based in Mumbai, which is formerly Bombay. So the word is a portmanteau of Bombay and Hollywood. Did I get that right?
Yes, that's correct. That's absolutely correct. And hats off to your research for that. Bollywood films are mostly from India, and a lot of them are produced in Mumbai. But now the times are changing a little bit, and we have films in over 27 languages.
Good, right. That's incredible.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And in every year, Bollywood produces over 1,800 films in different languages, in about 27 languages. It's not just from Bombay now, it's from, different parts of the country. So it's really evolved and it's really grown over time. And with streaming services, there's just, it's just beginning to grow even further. Mm-hmm.
I have watched some Bollywood films, and I've always been impressed by now, and by the way, I'm not trying to put all these films into one box, okay? But the ones I've seen, okay, if we can just accept that and understand that I've only seen a couple, and that the rest of this is a vast signature of my ignorance that I haven't seen so many more than a couple. But I've always been impressed by there's this wonderful scope to these films, and there's this energy to these films that it's an intoxicating medium.
Absolutely. I think you hit it, you hit it right there. They are really colorful, exuberant, sort of like celebration of life.
Yeah.
Really, yeah. So I think you've nailed it right there.
As a composer, when you compose music for the film, are you composing all the music, or is it just incidental music in between, big numbers, or what are we talking about here?
It totally depends on the filmmaker. In this case, I did compose the music for the entire film, and that means the score, the background score, as well as the trailer music, the music for promotions, the music if you've seen Bollywood films, there's a lot of song and dance, that kind of music. Yeah, pretty much the whole film, whatever music you hear, I've composed it. Yeah.
Is there a primary instrument that you compose on for the Bollywood films?
Yeah. So I have composed a lot of it is electronic, but I've also used samples of flute and drums and harmonium and different kind of sounds for the music. So it's really pop kind of pop Indian music that makes you dance, music that makes you feel excited.
Yes.
And I think that's really also so important for this time that we are in.
Oh,
We
yes.
really want to feel happy, and we want to feel, like a celebration of life right now, no matter what is happening. Feel positive and feel like this day will also pass, and we'll get to see tomorrow, which will be a much more brighter, better day.
I agree with you so much. And I totally agree on all counts. We do need this. There is such uplift in Bollywood films. There are these wonderful microcosms of joy and storytelling in each film. It's lovely. I would like to ask you just one more question about the composition and all that. Is I did some reading that maybe some of the producers released the film soundtrack like on a CD or something before the film's released, kind of hoping the music will get the audiences interested in seeing the film. And sometimes the soundtrack can even be more popular than the film. Is that a case you've experienced?
That is true for some films. And in my case, we are just, yours is the first podcast I'm appearing on after finishing the post-production. So we're literally right now just starting with the promotions and everything. It's a very interesting thing that, I'd like to share, starting with what you're inspiring me to share this. In Western music, in Western films, the music is sort of in the background. It may not draw people to the theaters, but in Bollywood music or in films from India, the music majorly draws people into the theaters. That is one of the top 50-60% of the reasons why people want to go ahead and watch films, and that's one of the music really draws people to the theaters and get excited about the film and about the story, and have this experience with their family, with their loved ones, with their friends. So but I haven't experienced it till now, but the music has been appreciated really well on Amazon Prime till now in the early inner circle sharings that we've done. So that's where it is right now. Mm-hmm.
Well, the film is called The Strange Guest. And folks, I know you're all thinking, I got to hear this stuff. And guess what? I've got a YouTube link that's going to be in the show notes at mgopod.com. That's mgopod.com. Just check the link in the show notes and you can go get a taste of Priyanka's score and a little bit more about The Strange Guest. I'm so excited about this, and I think it's kind of fun for me because, all joking aside at the beginning, how we've had tons of Bollywood producers and film composers, but it's always been something that has interested me since I first saw it years ago, the Bollywood film. And forgive me, I don't remember the name of the film, but I just remember I felt great after I watched it. It was fun, But when you got a hold of me, I was like, yes! Definitely. This is someone I want to speak to. This is so great. Because, I spoke virtually at a conference in India. My day job, I'm a public relations and marketing guy, kind of like you're a marketing person too, part of your work. And I spoke at this marketing conference. It was Linkjoy. And I just so enjoyed, prior to the conference, my interactions with people from your country and interacting with people who set that up. And then people from all over the world who also spoke. There was a gentleman from Nigeria. There were gentlemen from France and a lady from Japan. It was just a really great experience. But I guess wanted to say to that is just that, Priyanka, that I felt uplift having worked with those folks too. Not just going to a film and feeling uplift, but I felt uplift from working with Indian people.
Wonderful. That's so amazing to hear. That's amazing. Yeah. Glad you had this experience. It does have this feeling of, living with having so many people around you, seeing the colors during the festivals and the music. It really is a different experience in terms of the emotions. And right now I am in San Francisco, and I've been here for over 10 years, and I do miss that sometimes, and that's a huge sort of an eat, pray, love experience. And I'm so glad you had that. Really amazing.
Of course, I'm a big encourager of travel anyway. Of course, right now it's more and more difficult with a raging pandemic. But eventually, when things do settle down, I encourage everyone to travel. And India is definitely on my list. But moving on, though, from beyond the fact that you're a composer of note with The Strange Guest, and I'm sure you'll be doing a lot more after this one, you also have some thoughts on marketing tips during said pandemic and in the next decade from your perch in Silicon Valley. Any thoughts on that for the listeners?
Absolutely. I think we are at pivotal point in terms of marketing. If you look at the audience, it's a very different stage that they are in. There is a lot of polarity in terms of what their preferences are. If you're into any kind of products or services or, any kind of creative writing, it's really important to see where that is going, and it's sort of like a moving target. So got to really pin down and talk to people more often than ever before in terms of what their emotions are, what they are feeling, what they like, what they don't like, and sort of update your personas and update your audience preferences. In terms of marketing, you will see a lot of change towards moving online, towards accepting what you hear, and just being okay with even you know peop- there is a lot of polarity in people's minds. So as a producer or as a composer, being okay with those kind of polarities and moving on from there. So it's a great learning. It's a great time to be a student right now. Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. And, we do have a lot of our listeners are writers who are looking to market their work. And, it's a strange thing here for the strange dichotomy, Priyanka, because when we were all in lockdown in the United States, and of course you said you've been here 10 years. And so you experienced lockdown, and you're in San Francisco, which I know is very, very on top of it compared to a lot of states. I'm in Missouri, which is not on top of it, which is why we have just about more cases per capita than any other state at this point. But the point I'm trying to make is that I thought at the beginning of lockdown, I thought, well, we've got captive audience. People are going to want to read. This is a good time to promote. This is a good time to try to get people to read my series. But I think it was a little disappointing to a lot of folks who thought that people would read more books, but I think Netflix kind of stole a lot of thunder. Any thoughts on lockdown and trying to market yourself in general? Let's just talk to the writers listening out there. Any general thoughts on that for them?
Absolutely, absolutely. I recently did a webinar on this also about the trends in marketing, and I would like to share one really main important point over here. Previously, we as creatives, we used to market based on where the money flows. So
Mm-hmm.
no matter, so if you're whether you're a producer, writer, into PR, into products and services, into startups, we would look at the revenues, what will bring us revenues, and see where the money flows and sort of create something in that direction. But during the pandemic and even post pandemic, it's really important to look at the emotions. It's right now the audience is at the survival mode. They are looking at things that are really, really important at that stage of their life.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a huge shift in mindset so you're going away from the revenue mindset to the emotional mindset of the audience. So I think that's the one of the biggest changes that we have seen in terms of marketing and PR in Silicon Valley, including in startups, like startups getting funding also.
Mm-hmm.
If you take a look at them, most of them are into meditation or into like mindfulness or into audio technology related to that. So there's a huge shift towards the emotional aspect of it. So I think to your viewers, I would say, look, if you literally want to, if you want to make it like to be the most simple, you can literally Google search where the money flows in your industry at one
Mm-hmm.
hand, and on the other hand also look at what are the emotional values, what are the emotional beliefs of your audience during the pandemic and post pandemic. And I just wanted to share you one more small update, which is
Sure.
we will see people, hopefully the pandemic gets over quickly and we get back to our normal lives. So we will see like an uptick in people going back to our older, happier, meeting our friends and that life. But most of the world has become accustomed to going on Zoom, being available online, and working in our PJs. So that's going to be a part of our culture after a few years. So I do see like a dip in terms of people coming online after the pandemic is over, but after that there will be a huge uptick in terms of like listeners and viewers ready to, be a part of this new economy, being online, being available, being more active online than before.
One thing that I know you're active in with your services you offer clients is trying to identify the personas of your customer. And I wonder that a lot of, particularly self-published or small press writers, don't really fully understand who they're trying to sell their book to. Is that a fair statement? And if so, what would you do to help?
I think marketing is an important thing for every creative person. And yes, you're correct. People don't invest significantly in that direction. Some people do, but it requires, it's a different beast altogether. And
Right.
personas really, really help you identify your storytelling. I mean, it helps you in every aspect of your writing. So my suggestion to my humble opinion to creative people would be to start there, to start literally thinking about your personas while you're writing. You don't, that's sweet spot where you can really hone onto your audience and know who they are, what their beliefs are, what are their emotions, how are they connected to you, how you how the outcome that you offer, gives them a personal sense of relief, or it, gives them the joy that you want them to have through your writing. So I think personas are really important, and I'm not saying it because I'm into that, but because really it'll help you in your writing. And try to introduce that in the beginning of your writing when you're, writing your creative, when you're into your creative projects, when you're talking to your friends. I think it'll really help you in developing your products. I've worked with people who have used personas and have started with one film, and now they are working on a series of films, like a Netflix series. Same with authors. They started with one book, their first book, their debut book, but once they figured out their persona, they were able to sort of, imagine the world of books that they would write. So I think that's the difference that I've seen in writers who know their personas and who don't know their persona.
Kind of meeting the reader where they are and finding out who your audience is. And if it's more women than men reading your stuff, or there's more women than men out there, look for stuff in your genre. Let's say, I mean, it's always been known that romance has been mostly women who read that, but I think mystery thrillers have really, really become the domain of the female reader as well. But I don't know that because I haven't done enough research. I haven't worked with someone like you.
Absolutely. I think in terms of the readers, it's very important to know where they're coming from, who they are, what their journey has been, what sort of age segment you are looking at. Definitely in terms of suspense, you'll have a huge audience, and you can see it from, the popular programs on Netflix. So I think a great way to start is, to get inspiration from series or, movies or programs which are similar to you, and look at their audiences, look at their feedback on Twitter, on, social media, other places. But it's also the location of your audiences, where they are, as well as the psychological part of it. So the demographic, the geographic, and the psychographic information. I think these three are the key segments that you need to know about your audience. And more than the demographic part of it, I think what is really interesting right now during the pandemic is the psychographic part of it. So that's one suggestion that I would, make to the creative, awesome people on your podcast and your listeners out there. Yeah.
Pardon the word, but it's not sexy when you're writing your novel to think about, how will this be marketed? You just want to be creative and get it out there on the paper and write this great story, and then, but I think you're wise to suggest while you're writing it to be thinking about this. I mean, if you're just writing for, not just, but if you're writing for the pleasure of writing and you don't have expectations of reaching a wide market and selling a lot of books, then do what you want, right? But if you're looking to market yourself, which I asked myself 15 years later, was I serious about trying to market myself? I don't know. But the point being, if you are, you should think about that when you're creating your books. I've interviewed several authors. I won't name drop today, but a couple of them said to me, I started some series with some characters and situations I dearly love, got a couple of books in, they didn't sell, so I had to abandon them. I had to move on and try something else. So I think what you're saying there, Priyanka, is very helpful. I had just one kind of closing question as we're starting to wrap up here. I know you're very busy, but I wanted to ask you, as a female person of color working during the pandemic, have you experienced any issues or challenges that people maybe wouldn't understand if they weren't in your shoes?
Oh my God, I don't know where to start.
How did I know? How did I know that? Anyway, please start.
I think you're the mind reader. Well, for the film, we had so many issues. I think the biggest one was, and also, we do understand that, we do get that. So, I totally empathize with my team and with, everybody who's been on the film. A huge part of our post-production team was in Mumbai, was in San Francisco, and they went back to their villages, they went back to their homes and to live with their families, because this was totally, unforeseen. It was really difficult for them to sort of figure out, what's going to happen. So we did, lose a lot of our time during that time. We also were in this phase of uncertainty. We are consoling one another, but we don't know, what's going to happen next. In terms of, having typically a film will, bring all the cast and the crew together. It's like a team. It's not like just you making the music, but it's, working with a team. Being all together. That's really important for a project like this. So that's something that didn't happen. So, we really missed all those aspects of human life in this project. And literally, like after December, after the last December, we froze. I mean, we just didn't know what to do. It was like a moment of, where we all sort of had conversations, but we just didn't know what to expect of the near future, and when this is going to end, and have those healthy discussions as peers, as friends, as colleagues. So a lot of it has there's really I mean, it's I'm like our listeners, I'm also at the stage of survival right now, where we don't know what is going to happen, when this is going to end, but we just try to be brave, and we try to be courageous, and we give each other that dose of courage and that positivity and that inspiration, and just be with them, and just be available, be ready to talk to them whenever they want, and be helpful to one another. So yeah, that's what it is. Mm-hmm.
But is there also, when you're trying to do business in the United States, trying to do your film work here, is there a hurdle for that because of a cultural difference, or are the people you're working with here in the States pretty accepting and understanding of that, or is it still kind of a challenge for you?
It is a big challenge, because socially we are more conditioned to meet in person than meet online. So that is a huge hurdle. So I think that is, and mindset, a mindset change, it doesn't happen overnight. And to give you a perspective of that, like when I was in India, I used to meet about 400 to 500 people per week, like in meetups and events and family gatherings, social networking and all that. And here in United States, it's much more the social meetups are much more lesser than what we have in Asian countries. So that's also another big difference. Like, you're more isolated, whereas in India, you're much more, surrounded by people who look like you and who, do awesome things like you do. So there's a huge difference in terms of like the mindset of and then, the way society operates, the way the economy operates, the way money flows in your industry. So there's a huge difference in both the industries. It's just very little common to begin with. Mm-hmm.
Well, I suspected that, and I was just curious because, cultural hurdles, I think, tend to become even taller hurdles to jump in a situation of a national emergency, which we're all basically in. I think people tend to become insular in an emergency situation, take care of their own. And as you said, you're not in a situation where everybody looks like you and not everybody thinks the way, culturally, the way you do with that expectation. So that's got to be frustrating, challenging, and isolating for you, is what I was thinking.
Absolutely. But we have to move on. We have to look at it from the positive side. So it's new, it's never happened before, but there's also acceptability amongst people about how to take it forward. So that's really positive. Like in terms of statistics, this was supposed to happen about 8 to 10 years from now. So there's a lot of research which has happened about this kind of developing countries moving online and being more accepting with streaming services, and they had sort of pegged it in the next 8 to 10 years when that was supposed to happen, but it just happened too early. So people are still catching on with it and trying to work around it. So yeah, that's what it is. Mm-hmm.
I would ask you a more broad question as we do close out here, sadly. But I want to ask you this question. There's one more after this, but this is the big, broad question here, okay? I'd love to know, just if you can encapsulate this briefly, just your creative approach. Are you someone who, there's some people I think, I'll put it to you in my own way, what I do, okay, when I'm going to write a book. I get an idea for a book, and I'm like, okay, I don't outline the book or anything like that, but I have some general ideas where it's going to go, right? And then I tell myself, Alex, sit down in a seat, put your fingers on the keyboard, and write. That's how I create. And then I compose at the keyboard there, so to speak, and then things happen there, and then the process of, writing and editing and writing and editing, that's where my creativity flows. And then if I take a long walk occasionally, something pops into my subconscious, and I use that. Curious if you have any kind of a process like that for composing.
I do. So in my case, I think I get inspiration. I try to find some kind of inspiration from nature, from my previous work, or from relationships, or from conversations with friends. And I'm constantly making notes about it in my diary. And that sort of, kickstarts the process. Yeah. On my piano, I'm just doodling with ideas, with, riffs, and seeing if there's anything interesting. I just leave it for some time, and if I still remember it, then I continue to work on it. If I sort of remember it while, doing some work, and if I'm able to hum it again, that's a sort of testimony for me to know that this is, something good to carry forward. So that's there. But I think the process is really interesting, right? I think you get, I think I've found inspiration in so many weird places also.
Get weird. I want to hear the weird stuff.
Like, I mean, just, we are overhearing conversations in, planes, and in while traveling, or, while just, you're in your BART or in your Caltrain, or, so so inspiration can come from pretty much everywhere. And I just sort of, I'm so grateful for that, I try to be a really good listener, and sort of, also empathize with the audience, trying to know what the emotions are, what they're trying to feel, being more available to, friends and family, and just, hopping on a call with people on a monthly basis has really, really worked well for me. So I think those are some of the ways that I sort of find inspiration. The process definitely will change every time, but I think that's pretty much been the common way that I start making music. And then moving forward, it's always, having some sort of validation where I recall the tune, and I sort of, find that, hey, oh my God, this is amazing. I remember the tune, so there's something in it. And then I move forward from there.
Oh, man. Priyanka Lalwani, I've so enjoyed learning about you and your new film, which you've composed the entire score for, which is, of course, The Strange Guest. There is going to be a link in our show notes and on mgopod.com. But Priyanka, how else can we find out more about you? What websites, what links should we also add in there with the link to The Strange Guest music?
Wonderful. So thank you so much for having me, Alex. Listeners, your listeners can find me on my website, priyankalalwanimusic.com. You can also, search my music on Alexa, or on Spotify, or on any of your other social media channels by just putting the keyword The Strange Guest, and find it there. You can also find it with my name, Priyanka Lalwani Music, on social media channels, and follow me there. Yes, I'm hoping to forward to DM with some of your listeners, and with you, and with just get to know what's going on. Yeah.
Well, Priyanka, you've been far from a strange guest. You've been a delightful guest, and
Oh.
but I might have been a strange host. I hope I was, but I've so enjoyed it. Thank you so much, everybody. Check mgopod.com or your show notes, and you'll find all these wonderful links. And again, Priyanka Lalwani, thank you so much for joining us here on Mysterious Goings On.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you so much for having me here. And you were really amazing. Really. Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on Mysterious Goings On. Be sure to follow Mysterious Goings On wherever you get your podcast and never miss an episode. Don't forget, you can get the links to books and other things mentioned on the show at mgopod.com. Until next time, keep reading.